Hey friends, in this video, I'll show you a short strategy I use to open 1-minute trades. I can work with absolutely any chart using this strategy. Let's get started slowly. I'll add all the necessary indicators. I'll start with an indicator called SAR. I add it to the chart and here I go into the settings. So, regarding the indicator settings themselves, I leave 0.02 in the first field and 0.2 in the second field. That is, I use the standard settings here, and the only thing that is important for me is to choose the correct candle time frame. But I will return to this after setting up the indicators. The only thing I do here is change the color of this indicator to yellow and make it slightly thicker so it's more noticeable to me. The next indicator I will use is called the ADX indicator. I am also adding it to the chart. Here, I go into the settings and I change the upper parameter to 12 and the lower parameter I also change to 12, after which I go to the Styles tab. And here, as usual, I leave only the top line of the ADX indicator. I turn off the other two lines, after which I press the Save button. And the last indicator that I will use today is called the SuperTrend indicator. I add it to the chart, then go to the settings. Here, I set the period to 12 and I leave the second parameter at 3. I don't change anything in the styles and just press the Save button. Now, to make 1-minute trades, I select the candlestick chart type and set a 15-second time frame for candles specifically for 1-minute trades. And I also set 1 minute since I will be making 1-minute trades. I set the trade amount to $500. I'll start explaining now how I work with this strategy. But before that, a small announcement. I have gathered a lot of useful information about trading in one place which I use myself. I left it all in the pinned comment. There are many lessons there, absolutely free, that I wrote and use for work. So, first of all, when I open the chart, I look at an indicator called ADX. This indicator shows the strength of the current movement. At the same time, it doesn't matter at all where the movement is directed, up or down. And the higher the ADX indicator value, the stronger the current trend. To enter trades, I need the ADX indicator to show a value above 20. This is the first step. If I see that the ADX indicator shows a value less than 20, then I do not enter the trade accordingly. And here is another important detail. For example, our chart can grow for a long time and then reverse and go down. In this case, the ADX indicator value will be above 20, but the ADX line itself will be pointing down. In such cases, I do not enter a trade. For me to enter a trade, the ADX indicator must not only show a value above 20, but its line must be either directed upward or at least be flat, but definitely not pointing downward. After making sure that the current chart movement has the necessary strength, I then look at an indicator called SuperTrend, and if SuperTrend gives me a sell signal, I open a down trade, and if there's a buy signal, I open an up trade. And lastly, I check these signals using the SAR indicator. It's the most sensitive, so I use it to check where the price is heading in the short term. For instance, to enter a down trade, I need the SuperTrend indicator to show that there is currently a signal for a down move and the SAR indicator to be plotting dots above the chart. Only in this case do I enter the trade. If I see a buy signal, the SAR indicator should be drawing its dots below the chart for me to enter the trade. Well, now I see that the movement is slowly gaining strength, but the value hasn't reached 20 yet, so I'll just change the currency pair and open something else. So, here you can see the situation that I mentioned. There was a strong downward movement, the chart began to turn, and the ADX indicator is pointing down. It still shows the strength of the downward movement. But since an upward movement has started, the strength of the downward movement is decreasing. As I was saying, to enter a trade, I also need the ADX indicator to be either sideways or upwards. So, right here, there is essentially a good situation to enter an up trade. The ADX indicator value is above 20 and ADX is not pointing down. Then I see there is an active buy signal from the SuperTrend indicator. And also the SAR indicator draws its points below the chart. Therefore, I entered an up trade for $500. Now briefly about why I use $500. I also need to say what balance distribution system I use. In general, in all strategies, regardless of which indicators I use, I adhere to one simple rule. For opening my trades, I use an amount that does not exceed 1% of my balance. I do this in order to offset losses, as my trades still end up in the negative. This is a normal part of my work, so I'm used to it. But in order to somehow increase my balance and grow it, I use a doubling strategy. So if my trade closes at a loss, then I open the next trade with double the amount. And if this trade had closed at a loss of $500, I would open the next trade for $1,000. But the price went up and my trade closed in profit, so there is no point in doubling. Now I'll take a look at what else is on the charts. Maybe I'll be able to find some good market situation where I can enter a down trade, and I literally find this market situation right away. So what do I see on this chart? At the moment of entering the trade, the SAR indicator was drawing points above the chart, then there was an active signal for a down trade, and the ADX indicator is above the value of 20, and it was not pointing downwards. However, apparently, because the chart was very close to the SAR indicator as soon as the price increased slightly, the SAR indicator already changed the direction of its signal. Therefore, even if this trade closes with a profit, I will not be able to enter trades here anymore until all three indicators start indicating that the downward movement continues. There should also be a sell signal from the SuperTrend indicator, and the ADX indicator should also show the strength of the current movement. Well, this trade might end up in the negative, so I might have to double up, and then I'll show how the doubling strategy works. There are literally a few seconds left. I immediately prepared $1,000 to open the next trade, but nevertheless, my trade closed in profit. I'm just locking in the net profit. That's the strategy. I hope you found something new for yourself. If that's the case, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the videos. And remember that on my channel, I share my experience. I do not provide financial advice. With that, I say goodbye to you. I wish you good luck.